Y'all, this is Nick Pags. It's technically Nick Paganelli, but we just call him Nick Pags. He is a growth mindset expert. He's a certified behavioral change specialist. He's an inspirational speaker. He was a personal trainer for many, many years, used to manage a gym in New York City. We met in New York in 2017, working at the gym together. And immediately, I mean this in a platonic way, fell in love with him. He just is absolutely such a breath of fresh air. He's an absolute chameleon. He can transform into whatever and wherever he is in all the rooms he's in. And my favorite thing about Nick is his commitment to the work. So I know Nick on a deep personal level. He's one of my close friends. I'm so grateful. Him and his wife, Bia, who many of you know, she runs Theta Breathwork, which is both a membership as well as their certification program. They're just in it. They do the work. They show up. They get through the sticky stuff. And I know we talked a lot last week about secret weapons. I don't like to use the term weapon, but Nick is my secret weapon. He's one of my secret weapons behind the scenes that not a lot of people know about. Only when you're really close to me in my business do you get to see that. But what I mean by that is when I'm going through it, when I'm in the gunk, when I'm stuck, when I'm feeling comparison, imposter, all that stuff pop up, because it still does, Nick is the guy that I call. He helps me through so many things, even if it's just holding space for me, but he really is brilliant in what he does. And the really cool thing about this, the full circle moment for me that is always so special when I get to share him with my audience, whether it's in a paid program or a free container like this, Nick was actually the second client ever to come through Empower. He is one of the reasons why I started Empower unofficially in 2017 and then officially in 18. He was one of the trainers at the gym. When I talk about how it started with just a few trainers sitting around and I was helping them build their landing pages and email lists and stuff, Nick was literally the second guy. He was the second trainer. We would sit on the floor in the gym on Thursdays and work through business stuff together. So I just owe so much to him and what we've been able to grow. And my favorite part of the whole story is that he's been a coach with us inside of Empower since 2018 and a half. Yeah. So Nick is actually our in-house mindset specialist. He's our mindset architect. He's the guy that you get on calls with and you get to just work through the stuff, because it's not a matter of if stuff is going to come up. It's a matter of when stuff is going to come up. And while I can definitely talk you through a lot of mindset stuff, there's something so special about having someone dedicated on the team who is an expert in these areas to kind of talk you off those ledges and talk you through the stuff that is coming up for you. And, gosh, he can do so many things, but for me, it's the mental merry-go-round, like that we all get stuck in, that hamster wheel, where he's got this ability, and some of you've worked with him. So if you have, you can leave chats, comments here. He's got this ability to create a safe space while holding up a mirror to showing you what maybe is going on, and then offering tools so that you can continue to do that work together. And with business, we always say it, your business will only grow to the extent that you do. And when you get into entrepreneurship, what you're actually signing up for is like a rocket ship to personal development, whether you like it or not, whether you're ready or not. So I'm stoked to have him here today. I'm going to kind of guide the conversation with just a few questions and we're going to see where it goes. And then if y'all have questions and things you want to jump in, you can totally jump in as well. We are not admitting people into Zoom. This is just a Facebook Live. It's just a bonus here in the live. Cool. All right. So did I do an okay job introducing yourself?
I think that was the best one yet. I'm impressed.
I'm like, wait, why don't you tell people a little bit? Is there anything else? Like, what do you want to say?
I got nothing. I literally don't have anything else to say.
Your money tree is looking so good back there.
Dude, if you saw that a year ago, I'm very proud of that.
It's so good.
He's doing a great job.
And for those of you who are interested or, know of or like and follow Joe Dispenza, who I've mentioned many, many times, Nick, Mike, Bia, and I actually went to Joe Dispenza's advanced retreat last year together. So special. We've done some deep work together over the years. All right. But that is enough about us. Are we ready?
So ready. I could not be more ready.
I'm just going to start with this. I saw this quote the other day, and it wasn't like a quote by someone famous. It was someone posted this, and he was kind of posting it as like a Twitter type thing. And it hit me, and I was like, oh man, I'd love Nick to talk about this. So I'm curious how you feel about this and what we can get into with this. What he said was, what is aligned to your highest self is by nature out of alignment with your current self. And so maybe it's time to pursue what is out of alignment so you can finally get a different result. And I was like, what? It's kind of like nothing changes if nothing changes, but it's on such a different level because so many of us, we just did a visualization on day 3 yesterday where we were stepping into our inevitable futures and we were visualizing the success, the career, the life, the family, all the things that we desire. Yet we get tripped up in this, like, it doesn't feel aligned. It doesn't feel easy. It's not flowy. And so we stop ourselves before we start. So I'd love if you could just kind of unpack that a little bit.
I think that language is really, it's a big language conversation too, right? Because it's saying this isn't flowy or this doesn't feel aligned. And often what we mean when we say that in those moments is that this doesn't feel familiar. Like this feels outside of what I'm used to. And being outside of what we're used to when we're trying to create something different is a sign of progress, not a sign of issues. And I think that what speaks to me when I hear you say that is that I get excited when things feel what some might say are out of alignment in that moment. Perhaps it's the trajectory you've been trying to go down, but because the egoic self, or whatever you want to call it, the lower self, the me that's not in the position where I want to be, if that part of you, I experience this all the time, Jess, literally every day. It's nonstop. And I'm like, maybe 13 years of the work will get me out of this thing, but I've been doing this for quite a long time. And what I find is that you love to say, and I love when you share this, new levels, new devils. Every new step we take takes us to a new place of confrontation with self, or even with that egoic self. So when that highest self is trying to come in and lead us somewhere that's unfamiliar, the egoic self will say, this isn't right. It'll use language like, this is out of alignment. This feels uncomfortable. I feel blocked. This doesn't feel flowy. And I mean, is there a better story than me at the start of Empower? I mean, you were like MailChimp and I was like, I'm sorry, what? Did you say computer? Not my thing. Great, Nick. Sign up for an online program and you're scared to use a computer. And I remember that experience. And there were parts of my truth that were, I don't like to sit in front of a screen. That's true for me. That feels like my highest self doesn't enjoy most of my time in front of the screen. But I will say that my higher self was not saying, you can't do email lists. You can't create online programs. You can't. That was the part of me that had associated with an identity, an egoic identity of self that didn't allow me to become someone new. And often what we have to do is we have to let go of, and maybe we can call it as aggressive as saying, we have to let die some of the ways of being or some of the identity pieces that we've had for most of our life to create a new season, to create a new era for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think it can be terrifying as we take that step, and it can sound like the words out of alignment. But be careful, or I would invite you to notice the language. For me, this is what I'm doing all the time. Is just like, is it out of alignment or is it unfamiliar? So I'm not identified with it. So it means me, this, and that is that. And I can't be that. And it really sucks when you're saying that about money, when you're saying that about success, when you're saying that about service, ways that you can impact. It's like, oh, that's not me. When we create that distinction that I am not it and it is not me, we separate further from it.
Yeah.
So when we're noticing, okay, I want to be somewhere else or I want to create something else in my life, just check in on if you're identifying with the old self and the old life so much that you're not giving yourself permission to become someone new, and you're calling it a lack of alignment. Perhaps it couldn't be more aligned. Maybe it's the most aligned decision you have ever made in your entire life to go towards the life you say you want. But because it's unfamiliar, you keep telling yourself you can't.
So Sarah just jumped in with a question, which I wrote down because I was about to ask it myself. And she said something along, it's gone now, but something along the lines of like, how do maybe you, Nick Pags, or how do you collectively teach people, how do we discern between when something is out of alignment and when something is just new?
I think I'm at least the practice that I've been watching people work through is getting connected with themselves and their body in a new way. We're super connected with our mind. Like we love our brain, our thinking, our logical mind. We are so connected with that. We've put so much importance on that in our society, and that's not a bad thing. Logic is not bad, but our logic is built off of a whole lot of conditioning and belief systems and stories and patterns from past stuff. It's just built off of a lot of old things. And a lot of those old patterns are not aligned with where we say we want to go. So when we're taking those old patterns to make new decisions, there's a lot of blockage. So part of what I think has to happen, in my experience, with people trying to get more in touch with what is aligned versus what's not, is they need to get more in touch with themselves. And in order to get more in touch with ourselves, we've got to get in a better relationship with that highest self, that voice, that ability to connect with whatever it is you believe in. I call it pizza, source, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whatever it is you believe in, doesn't matter. Whatever that thing is, even if it's just that highest self, getting connected to it is a process that we have strayed away from. We've gotten more connected with things, with other stuff outside of us, and less connected to our intuitive voice. So I think the more that we practice being connected to that thing, the more we actually learn how to hear that voice that's saying, this is the play, this isn't the play. But we're so used to just asking everybody else or thinking. How many times we say, I got to think through that. I got to think about that. Sometimes you do have to think, but often we just have to check in and feel in our bodies. So what I'll often do with people is I'll help them realize what feeling really is. So remember in school, Jess, when, way back in the day, you'd go buy lunch at school. I mean, my mom almost always made me lunch, but on those days when I would get pizza, I would go and I would wait in line, and we had this tray thing. Like, you got the tray that you put all your food on. Mine was always too full. Nonetheless, I would get my tray. And as you take the tray off, there was kind of this spring system where like you took one tray and a tray would come up. You took one tray, a tray would come up. And our feelings, our emotions are very much like that. When we have shame, when we have guilt, when we have worry, when we have fear, when we have insecurity, and these are things that for a lot of us, and I'll speak on just on behalf of a lot of men specifically, men don't allow themselves to feel because it's not safe, because it's weak, because whatever. When we allow those things, and it's not just for guys, for anybody, for those things to move up and through us, it often looks like tears, emotion. When we allow that to be present, it's kind of like taking one of those trays off and the next one comes up. So if I feel the shame and I express the shame and I honor the shame, which is the work that I do with people, it's like, just talk to me. What's going on? Don't hide. You don't have to look a certain way for us together right now. Just share what you're feeling in true honesty. And as they do that, they take the tray of shame out and now fear comes up. And then they take the shame of fear and the next thing comes up and it just keeps going. And then somewhere down the line, there's clarity, there's awareness, there's trust, there's joy, there's fulfillment. These things were in your body. They're in here. It's just, they're so deeply suppressed by other stuff that we're not allowing ourselves to feel. I told you, me and Jess had the pleasure of just catching up this morning. Earlier today, we were jamming. And I was telling her about a workout I did yesterday. And I finished this. I won't go into the story, but we'll just say this. It was 180 burpees in less than 15 minutes. So yes, not enjoyable.
So fun.
I cannot feel most of my body right now. So I was finishing and it was a last man standing experience. And I had completed it and I was like, yes, I got first place, but the guy running the show looked at me and goes, you ready for one more round? And I said, what are you talking about, dude? I just did 18 burpees in a minute and not doing another one. He goes 19, 3, 2, 1, go. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed and I finished and I started bawling. I mean, I was crying. Now I got 45 men standing over me. I'm on the floor crying my eyes out, which is not normal for me. This is not just because I'm in mindset work. I don't walk around like crying on a regular basis. This is actually a new process for me, allowing this stuff to come up. And I will answer this question in a long-winded way. What I found is that as I allowed myself to feel that emotion, there was a lot coming up from the day before that I had been suppressing. And when I let it out, and then I actually shared and vocalized to these guys, I felt 10 times lighter and joy kicked in, trust kicked in. I was so proud of myself. Like all this stuff kicked in. And I was like, it's not that that's new. That was in here. I just had to take the tray out of the shame or from yesterday, the guilt
Mhm.
from yesterday.
Yeah.
So when we're trying to find alignment, what we need to do is start creating a better relationship with ourselves where we can actually hear ourselves. And when we're suppressing stuff, that we're not allowing the voice that's really there to speak to us. So the more that we can feel, the more that we can start to understand that voice, we can start to hear that voice in a new way. And usually, in my experience of working with people, that voice from alignment, from highest self, from source, whatever, is incredibly simple. It's incredible. It's often, it doesn't give details. It's just, yep, let's do it. Or this isn't the right play. Or you can have that, but not this way. It's like very simple. It's
Yeah.
one-liners. It's like the profound mic drop things. That's how that information communicates with people. When I ask them, what's going on? What are you thinking? They've got like a 40-minute speech. But then when I say, close your eyes, breathe for a second and feel into your body, what's the play? They usually are like, this is not right for me,
Yeah.
or this is the step for me. So I think the
Something
more
that,
that we can get okay with simplicity.
yeah, totally. Something that really stood out for me, and I've never thought about it like this. And I'm writing notes as you're going, so I want to hit certain points. You said so often we even say out loud, like, let me think about it. Hey, do you want to come over tonight? Let me think about it. You want to go out to dinner? Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. I have to think about it. Decision, I need to think about it. But what I'm actually hearing from you is that we don't really need to think about it. We need to hear about it.
Yeah.
We don't really have to think through it. We just need to be able to hear ourselves. And I share the story all the time. I mean, I was meditating daily for over a decade. At the time, it was just about a decade. When we left New York City, we moved into the RV, and I continued my daily meditations. And it was like, whoa, I felt like for the first time in my life, I could actually hear myself, even though I had been in that practice every day for a decade. And I don't know if it was physically removing myself from New York City and like literally the noise, like the sound pollution, the light pollution, just the energy field there, especially being such an empath. But I started to really hear myself. And you talked before about this idea of like awareness and presence and connection to self. And it's all about how can we hear ourselves better? How can we listen to ourselves better? Do you have some like tactical strategies or tips or skills that people can do? Like, what does that mean for someone who's like, I don't even know where to start? Like, is it meditation? Is it journaling? Is it, what do you have for us?
Yeah, this is something that I have been working on for years and I still struggle with. And I think that some of us carry more history with this as a challenge. We're carrying more weight from childhood, whatever, traumas, experiences, maybe something that happened before you were even born. And for me, I come from a family of people who don't, not people meaning my siblings and parents, but like the long generational stuff, where they don't express themselves fully. There's a certain level of expression they'll reach. And that's pretty common, I think, nowadays, that people kind of filter themselves. So for me, full expression of self and totally allowing that voice to come forward is challenging. I think that one of the most powerful ways is honesty. Like when we are just radically honest with our experience and share that with people, holy moly, so much comes out and you start to really recognize you for the first time. It's like really, it's shocking when I sit with somebody and they're speaking through something and I say, okay, I get that you have a way of speaking in order to look a certain way, in order to project a certain identity or whatever. In this private, protected space, can you put all that aside? And often we don't even recognize that we're doing it, right? So it's not to the fault of us. It's just we do it in order to survive or just be in society.
Yeah.
So when I ask someone to step up and be completely transparent and honest with themselves and with the room, they start to see a part of themselves that they didn't know was there. So I think in just radical transparency and honesty, you don't walk around saying like mean things to people. It's just, if you're experiencing that, it's something about you. And if you can express that, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And then I think meditation is just magic. It is magical. I come from years of sitting and trying to meditate for 5 minutes, trying so hard to meditate for 5 minutes. I'll tell you, the Joe Dispenza thing took me to a whole new level. I had worked for a year to get up to 1 hour of meditation. I worked so hard for that. And then we did the Joe thing and we finished that a week later. And I was like dropping into 4-hour pineal gland meditations, like no problem. So that is a really powerful modality. And Dr. Joe's stuff is pretty incredible. But now there is just a non-negotiable standard for me every single day, a minimum of 30 minutes a day, but we're looking usually at an hour to 90 minutes a day of meditation, which to me felt like such a waste of time for so many years. And now I'm like, how could I have not done this for so long?
Yeah. The people, there are so many people watching right now. I know we have so many parents in here. We have people that work 9-to-5 jobs, who work multiple jobs. This is where the awareness of self is also so important. And we talked about this when we were talking about objections, right? And it's like, this might not be your season. It could be coming up for you right now where it's like, well, Nick and Bea, they don't have kids yet. And, they run their own businesses and they're entrepreneurs. And so there are certain things where you're like, well, yeah, we could all wake up earlier, but it might not actually be possible. I have a girlfriend who was in our elite mastermind. She's one of our clients. She just had twins about 6 weeks ago. Like an hour of meditation for her really just probably is not realistic in this particular season. She's up every hour and a half feeding 2 babies. It's like, you have to be really, give yourself grace, like be okay with where you're at in your life and know that there are different seasons and phases. And so if you're listening and you're getting triggered at all or being like, oh, must be nice for Nick or must be nice for Jess. Yes, but, and also it is possible for you too. And it might not just be in this season, or it might be in this season, but it might require you to shift a couple of things and kind of change some of those priorities. I want to stick with this for 1 second though, because when you started to talk about this idea of how you help people really start to understand who they are, you start to help people see who they are. They start to hear their own voice, maybe better tap into their own intuition, their own gut, which is so important in decision making. I want to connect the dots for everybody here, because everybody here is like building digital businesses, right? Mm-hmm. Where this comes into play specifically in Empower is where people get tripped up with social media. And it's the fear of being seen, being rejected, imposter syndrome, and being judged that holds us back, all of us humans back, from actually showing up as our authentic selves. And it's so easy to hide behind a trend or what seems to be working for somebody else. Okay, those colors look like they work for her, so I'm going to kind of copy those brand colors. That font clearly is working, so I'm going to use that font. That trending audio dance thing that I have to point to is working, so I'm going to do that. And when we start to do that, while like success leaves clues, we can totally lose sight of who we are. And so my favorite thing about having you as like this secret tool weapon inside of Empower is that you are able to help people truly, yes, overcome the fear itself or the rejection or what's coming up. But at the exact same time, it's not just putting a Band-Aid on the fear. You're going, hold on, let's get to the root of who you are, because the better you can understand who you are, the more authentically you just by nature will show up, right? Mm-hmm. So talk about this for a second, because I know you don't really use social media much anymore, which is amazing that you are able to run a business, not use paid ads. Like, it's incredible what you do. And so much of it's word of mouth because you're so good at what you do. But for the person who's listening right now, who has been pulling their hair out and their armpits are sweating because of social media, how does like all of this work and knowing who you are play into being able to show up with that confidence and authenticity?
There really can't be another way. I mean, the doing it, following the trend and trying to look like or be like somebody else, there's a certain amount of following someone's tail that you can do to take a next step and get seen. And then you're there having copy and pasted everybody else's thing, and you just become a robot of repetition, and there isn't any context to you. There's no anything within you. There's just nothing there. You're just copying. And I don't mean that negatively. What I really mean is you're missing out on the fulfillment and freedom of life. Because when you're your authentic self, you're actually an outpouring expression. You are a vibrant frequency that is projecting its beautiful energy onto the people, things, and awareness around you. So my hope is that when people look at social media, that they can choose to use it as a way to serve and deliver more of who they are. Not, and I'm not even talking about like, oh, I need to do this freebie and this, whatever. We will, you know, and Empower even, we talk about steps for you to be able to put those things out there and help you through the process, the logistical processes. But more than anything, when we are energetically putting ourselves out there, we are creating a certain, and I'm, I'm trying to say these words without going down a woo-woo path, but ultimately
Do
this
it.
is
Go.
what
Hold
people
on.
call
Wait.
woo-woo.
Are we cool? Let me know in the chat box right now if you're cool if Nick and I go to the woo-woo side a little
Are
bit.
we
If
okay with
we go to the
woo-woo?
energy and the spiritual side of things, let me know. Just say I'm cool if you're cool if we go there. Because we do. We play in both fields. We love woo-woo. I'm good. Woo away. Go.
I'm gonna
Cool.
woo
Okay.
away.
Let's go. Woo away.
Let's do it. So I think that when we're talking about frequency and energy, we're talking about calling things in and not from a hard work standpoint. Now, here's the magic of what can happen when we start to talk about energetics. Is that, you know, you've heard the term, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this on repeat, but the reason it's set on repeat is because of the impact of it. It's like tuning yourself to the proper radio station. If you want rock music and you're on like the reggaeton music station, you're going to be mad that you're listening to reggaeton when rock is like 2 stations away. You need to turn the dial. So when we want frequency of connection, of money, of abundance, then we have to be willing to turn ourselves to the right frequency. Now, here's a really fascinating thing. I feel like, I don't know if we talked about this, but this is mind blowing to me. There is a study, and I'm going to butcher all the facts, but you can look it up. It's amazing. They've been doing a lot of studies on energy of people, and they are able to actually, they have a device that can read people's energy and the power, the potency of someone's energy. So literally they have a number that correlates with happiness, a number that correlates with peace, a number that correlates with whatever, love. So they did this study a couple of years back, and then they repeated the study a couple more times because they were so shocked by the results, they couldn't believe that it was real. So they wanted to study what was the most powerful emotion or feeling in the entire world. Like, what is it? And of course, I will answer. I'm sure if I was looking at the chat and I said, okay, guys, tell me, what do you think the most powerful emotion is? I'm sure you're going to get the classic. It's got to be love. Like, that's what we've been taught. That's what we've been told. Gratitude. It's love. And then second place is gratitude, or first place, right? Depending on the person, right?
Yeah,
so
they're all
one
saying
of those
love.
two. Great.
Oh,
love
anxiety.
Or gratitude. Anxiety can be powerful. So when they started studying this, they found that one expression was 4,000 times more powerful than the second place one. And the second place one was love. So there is something, there's a feeling, there's a way of being that is 4,000 more times, scientifically proven, 4,000 times more powerful than love. And that is authenticity. When someone is being authentic, it is 4,000 times more powerful energetically than love. What? That blew my mind. So when we're talking about social, your ability to call in connection, and like a lot of people are sitting there going like, is that true? Listen, this is not my opinion. This is what I read this thing, this study, and then I watched another video, whatever. It's mind blowing. When you are being your authentic self, it might not happen fast, but it's going to happen, whatever it is. So when we are stepping into our power and being our authentic self, what people miss is the patience in the process. That you might have to post as your authentic self for a year before people are like, yo, your consistency with you just being you is so powerful. There's something beautiful when we pull away all of the what we think we have to be and who we think we have to be and what we have to look like, so that the true self can come out. And when we start to project that into the world, people feel that energetically. The power of authenticity is massive. So
I think that's why we can sniff it out.
What's that?
I feel like that's why we could sniff it out, right? Everyone can.
True.
We have that like intuitive, you're like, I don't know what it is about that person or that thing or that post, but like I'm not vibing with it, or like it doesn't feel, you can like feel it. And that probably is because it's an energetic, frequency thing. I mean, for the record, Nick hit the tuning fork before we started this live, and we tuned into a particular frequency. We happened prepared. We tuned into 428, which is my birthday. So we were doing that. So, okay. let's talk for a second about identity, because you've said the word identity a couple times. And I know on like the tactical strategic business side of things, when we're using messaging, there's a lot of power in they're called identifiers. Using identifiers in your messaging helps create an identity for a person, or it helps them connect the identity that you're saying with who they want to be. And this brings me to two things. One, why are we so dang committed to holding on to our current identities? And then two, when we want to step into a new identity, because we get to do that, we get to create our life and our identity and all of the things around us. I want to start to move into this idea of how you get there, which you teach a very proprietary Nick method, which we can talk about. But the first one, like, why do we have a chokehold on our old identity, even if we don't like it? And like the labels.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, first of all, just wherever you are, take a look. If you just took inventory for like 30 seconds, physically in your space, but beyond the physical, look how many people are the people that are consistently around you and they're there like every day. Look how many things you do, you know, like you get up and you brush your teeth a certain way, you go to the bathroom in a certain spot, you usually sleep in the same bed, you're sleeping next to the same person, or you're with the same phone at nighttime, whatever. There's all these things. My coffee maker's in the same spot. I drink the same thing in the morning. I go to work and do whatever. There's so many things that are constant reminders. I want you to imagine that you wore headphones every day. And every time, every like 10 steps, somebody just whispered into the headphones, "You're a piece of crap. You're not good enough. You are such a loser." Like if I just kept repeating that over, and I whispered it, wasn't big screaming, trying to get you to just whisper over and over. You would use your senses, your eyes, your smell, your physical touch, whatever. And you would hear that thing. And then you would associate with the things, the moments, the energy around you. And then you start to create an identity from what you're experiencing and what is around you. And you get really locked into that. So if we have this identity around, like there's so many things in place that remind us of who we currently are. So now Jess comes in and says, "I have an opportunity for you because I've spent my life trying to become this woman who could create this platform to help serve people, to create platforms for themselves to go serve the world. I have been working on this diligently, and I have this thing, and I want to offer this opportunity for you to be in this space, to work with this community, to learn these pieces." So Jess says that to you. And then here you are looking at that content. You're seeing, oh my God, this is new. This is a new place. This is a new person I can become. This is new money. This is new impact. This is new service. This is a new life in front of me. But I cannot embody it because when I look to my left and I look to my right and I go on with my day, everything and everyone around me remind me of who I've been from this moment and everything before. And the idea of stepping into what Jess is handing me, the idea of stepping into that new relationship, the idea of stepping into that new identity means that all of these things around me are going to start to go, "What the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing? This isn't you." One of the things I heard the most throughout my process, Jess, for years was someone saying, "This is interesting. Like you're not being yourself. Like this doesn't sound like you." And I'm like, "Thank you so much for that beautiful compliment, because I have spent so much time, money, effort, energy to become the man that I want to become." And it's not like I didn't love myself in other ways before. It's just who I want to become is different than him. So some things have got to change. So I have to be grieving kind of these pieces of me that I'm saying goodbye to, which is scary and uncomfortable. But I'm also embracing and accepting and embodying new ways. So just notice the reason why we're not going to change is because of the familiarity and the systems we have set up every single second to remind us of who we are. Like, and we could do this for things that work and things that don't work for us, by the way, but
because that's whether they work or they don't work, whether you're happy or unhappy, fulfilled or unfulfilled, comfortable, uncomfortable, they being like the thoughts and the habits and the patterns and the where the coffee maker is and all the things, right? The environment, it has still gotten you to a place where Like you're there and you're okay. So in your head, it's like this safety trap where you're like, yeah, but it's worked. Like, even if it's not great, like it's worked. So I'm here. I worked through this with you, and it's crazy. Like now I can talk about it, but it's so silly. This is so silly. I'm going to drop this on everyone and they're going to be like, that's what you were talking about. So I was vegan. I was completely plant-based for almost 20 years. It was about 18 and a half years. I was completely plant-based. And many, many, many years ago, 12 years ago, when I was doing bodybuilding, 10 years ago, competitions and fitness magazines, my brand was like vegan bodybuilder. Like that's what my coach would shout me out as like the vegan one on the team. And oh, look at her competing, even though she's vegan and she can't really cut her carbs ever because my protein were my carbs. So much of my identity was wrapped up around being, and this is, I mean, 20 years was way before being vegan was like cool or trendy. And yet so much of my identity was wrapped up around it. And so the past couple of years, I had an interest in potentially bringing eggs back into my diet. And there was so much shame and guilt. One, because I had this brand, which I didn't have anymore. Like I've been business coaching for 7 years. I've been out of health and fitness for a very long time. But like there was this feeling, this identity of loss and grief, where if I started to eat eggs again, it's like bad enough. And then also, what will people think when I share publicly? And so there was a gap of time. It took me about 5 years to actually eat the eggs before I was talking about it for about 5 years, maybe longer. 2017 at Tony Robbins, I wrote like, I'm going to eat eggs this year. And I didn't eat them until August of this year. So about 6 years. But it was like, wait, I don't want anyone to know yet. Like I had to do it behind closed doors. And then I didn't want to tell people on social media. And I wasn't okay with talking about it yet because I didn't want anyone to like look at me a different way or maybe judge me, or I was going to be rejected. And again, I don't have this like big vegan platform where I was going to get these haters like, you're a liar, hypocrite. You know, it was just like, I felt like there was a grieving process that I needed to go through behind the scenes before I was able to publicly open up to say like, hey, this is actually what's changed in my life, whether it matters or doesn't matter. And I don't owe anyone an explanation, but I don't do well with like hiding those types of things, which is why when we had the ectopic pregnancy, the miscarriage, like I share it on social media because I do feel it's so important to share that information. And when we're talking about vulnerability and authenticity, it's like, you don't have to air your dirty laundry, for the record, on social media to build a brand. You do not have to. But for me, it's part of my process. And you were such a help in that process. But I was so connected, the label, because what came with 20 years of being a vegan was, wow, you're so disciplined. Yeah. And I was constantly getting that sort of like awards and accolades and affirmation from people saying like, oh, I could never do that. You're so disciplined. That's amazing. Oh, you know, stuff like that, where it was feeding my ego in an unhealthy way. And it took me 2 decades to recognize that, right? Or, you know, maybe 5 years to recognize that, but you hold on to these labels. And I remember when I let my personal training certifications expire in April of 2020, after 18 years, I cried. I cried when I decided to not re-up like CrossFit and NASM and AFA and all. I literally cried and I had to mourn like I'm no longer a trainer, but which is so crazy because am I? Could I go get certified again? Like, does it matter? Does it take away from anything?
Yeah. And also noticing, I mean, it's such a beautiful parallel to, I think, what a lot of this community is listening to this is about to step into, or maybe has already stepped into, which is when we are taking that step to become the egg eater, right? Or whatever you want to call it, the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You have set systems. It makes so much sense. Really think about this. You've set systems of people specifically. That's probably the biggest one, but of ways of acting, of, communities. You've set systems that flow with who you have been, who you were, like that person who doesn't eat eggs. So now if you go start eating eggs, or you go start a business, or you start posting on social, the people who have seen you as the non-egg eater, as the person who would never post on social, as the person who doesn't have a business, who's a 9-to-5, employee type of worker, when they see you in that, you being that old way fit with their identity. It fit with them. So now what's interesting is, even though it has nothing to do with them, you going and starting an entrepreneurial journey, they're going to often feel attacked they're going to make up stories that, oh, you're too good for us, meaning I'm not good enough because you're an entrepreneur. It's like, dude, this has nothing to do with you. This has to do with me and me living my journey and creating the life I want. But you will notice, and it's not always, some people are incredibly supportive. Online can be incredibly supportive. But often people will make your leap mean something about them. And it's important for us to remember, we set those systems in place. We taught that person, we taught this community, we taught the world how to treat us and who we were. So when we're becoming someone different, can we be compassionate and understanding in their process of learning the new us, learning who we're becoming, celebrating us? And the truth is, some of them might vibrate out. And I use that term very intentionally. When I say vibrate out, I mean, we're going to be on different stations. I'm going to reggaeton, Poppy. Like, I'm out of here. I love rock. It's good, but I'm moving to a new station. I'm moving to a new frequency. And they're either going to be with you. And I'm not saying become an entrepreneur with you, but there's certain things, Jess, I know you and I can both speak to this. There's certain friends and people that we spent a lot of time with before we started the entrepreneurial journey, the personal development journey. And those people I have spent less time with. Yeah. I still love them. They are such incredible individuals. We don't connect on the same level anymore because I'm on a different frequency, not better, not higher, not they're lower, just different places. And it's okay that we're not totally in flow. So as you're making this change, my ask is that you be compassionate, not only with yourself, but with those who are trying to teach you that you are an old way. And it's like, they're going to take time to trust and patience to trust that you really are becoming this new person, and they can celebrate that.
Oh, it's such a good conversation. We could spend so much time here too, because people think a lot of times I have to cut those people out. You don't need to cut anybody out. Nope. This is, again, we're going back to what you said at the very, very beginning, having the awareness and the intention and the presence in your own self. You get to go, oh, okay, interesting. Maybe this person who once was a main actor or actress in my movie is now they're just like they're what's it called? Like a
supporting character.
Supporting, yeah, or even what's even like less than that when there's just people in the background.
They're an extra.
They're an extra.
Probably don't call them extra.
No, don't.
But it's okay. Yes, we get your point.
But it's your awareness of self to say, like, I don't have to cut these people out of my life. It's like, I've talked about it before on podcasts when I go visit some of those friends, right? High school, college. It's like, okay, I know that this weekend we're probably going to talk a lot about the glory days, and I'm probably not going to be talking about business stuff and like major, massive quadruple dreams and Joe Dispenza and stuff. And that's okay. But my expectation of what's going to come out of this is going to be the experience that I have. So it's on me to set my own expectation of self and go, this is a weekend where I'm going to nurture my soul and I'm going to talk about the past, and that's okay. And then when I step into a room with Nick and Bia, now we get to geek out on quantum physics and all that type of stuff. And it's like, you need to know those places and those people in your movie. And it's totally fine. When you were talking real quick, I think it was Charles Cooley or Clooney, not Clooney, not George Clooney, Charles Cooley, who said the quote, I am not who you think I am. I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am.
Yeah. Powerful. Yeah, a lot of our identity is just built off of how I think you think I am. So I'm not even, and talk about how crazy this is. This is why I think authenticity is so transformative. And as we're taking these next steps in our lives to become someone different, this is so huge, because when we notice that we are, you said to me, as you were introducing, like, Nick's a chameleon. And what's interesting is I have spent so much of my life trying so hard to like walk into that room and make everybody happy in that room. And I've had to be a certain way in order to make those people happy. So when I go home with my family, that means I stay up later, I eat like crap, because this is how my family does it. We eat, we binge, we have incredible, amazing meals. Like, we're an Italian family, so food is very important. We wake up a little later, we hang out, we chill. It's a lot of like goofy, whatever. Very different energy than when I'm home. When I'm being in the room with my wife, it's like, we're up by 5, we're exercising, we're meditating, we're eating healthy, we're on a cleanse right now. Sweet baby Jesus, it is quite a challenge. It's like a very different energy. I go with friends from home, very different energy versus when I'm with friends here. So having to be that chameleon, yes, that is one way. And then when we start to truly embody who we are and own who we are, which is a lifelong journey, I believe. For me, it definitely has been, and it is every day of understanding really who am I? What does that mean? The more that I own that and embody that, the more I just step into rooms. And again, people vibrate in, vibrate out. I am enrolling people into who I am rather than sitting there and going, okay, so who does Jess think I am? Let me make sure I show up that way. Even in this room right now, you know, if we watched years ago what these calls looked like, I'm sure it was like burpee to backflip to shirt off to let's go, everybody, because I thought I had to be the pump up guy. And that didn't fully resonate. That was a season of my life that I freaking loved. It was so much fun, but it doesn't resonate with me anymore based off of how sore I am right now from so many burpees yesterday.
For those of you listening, whether you're here live or you're watching the replay, when Nick said that little scheme there, like that's actually what the coaching calls used to look like, where it was a burpee to a standing backflip to a shirt off, and then he would come on and yell like, let's go. And he had a podcast called Let's Go with like 100 O's. And it's so cool for me to be able to see, but both of us have just gotten so much more grounded and cared less about what other people are thinking and cared more about what we think about ourselves and how do we be authentic. And with that being, if we can shift gears, because we are coming up on an hour and I do want to let them ask a couple questions if you're okay.
Totally. That's right.
We talk a lot, we together, and then we inside of Empower talk a lot about being, and we talk about doing, and we talk about having, and we talk about the mismatched order of it all. For the person who's been a part of DBE Live, whether they're thinking about moving forward with us or not, how do they get to that next version of themselves? What is that 3-step process that we often do backwards?
Yeah, for many of us, what we're looking for is we say, okay, I want to have certain results in my life. Like I want to have more money. I want to have more freedom. I want to have more time. And then they're like, okay, I got to go do the thing. And what people like you, Jess, are doing in this world, which is so beautiful, is saying, hey, here are the steps. Like I worked my tuchus off for years in order for me to create this level of success for myself. And now I know how to do it. And what a joy it is to be able to share that with you so you can go do it. So you have given the dues, the to-dos, right? So people are like, I want to have that. So let me go do. So how many people, and I'm sure I'm talking to somebody right now who has signed up for something, whether it was a $5 entry fee, a freebie from whoever coach or whatever that you saw online, or you've invested in a course, maybe you've invested a lot of money in something. And here you are kind of resentment filled, kind of angry with the same damn spot you were in before, feeling stuck and feeling like the programs aren't working. And here's my invitation to you. The context you are coming from might be from, okay, I want to have this, so now I got to go do all the things. But you're still the you that never did those things in the first place. You're the you that doesn't like doing these things. You're the you that doesn't really believe you can make that happen. You're the you that's scared that what if I really do make money? What will my family think of me? You're the you that says, I can't run a business. Run a business. What does that look like? That's the you that's coming to all the to-dos. So why would you ever give the ball boy in the dugout, in the dugout, not a baseball guy, a bat to go swing as in the major leagues? You don't. You pick somebody who knows how to make that happen. So the question then becomes, well, Jess, what do I do then? Like, because I haven't been a successful business owner. I haven't been a multimillionaire. I haven't been the game changer in my family lineage. We're not asking you to like have done that already. The doing will show up. I'm asking you to switch from the, I want to have this, so I got to go do that, and then I'll be that person, to I'm going to be that person, so I'm going to go do the things being that person. And next thing you know, you'd be surprised at how quickly you have it. So going from have, do, be, I got to have it, so I got to go do the things, and then I'll be that successful person, and switch it. I got to be him. I got to be the successful person. And then while I'm being him, now let's go finish the to-do list that Jess gave me. And now I'm going to like, ultimately we end up having those types of results. When I say be, I'm talking about ways of being, embodiment. So what is that person who has that crazy successful life, that makes that money, that feels confident in themselves, that generates incredible impact in the world. Who is that person being? And if you can envision that person, I think Jesse said you walk them through kind of the vision of that life, right?
Yeah.
So when you get yourself in that life and you could feel yourself just for a second in that life through that visualization, who is that version of you being? Is she confident? Is he proud? Is she bold? Is he grateful? Like, what is that way? And when you own that way of being, I'm going to be grateful today, not because I've already succeeded, not because the money's already here, not because I made all this, whatever, but because I'm choosing to be that way. Then I confront every single action, every single moment, every single to-do from that embodied way of being. Next thing you know, now you're taking on Jess's to-do list for you as the confident leader, as the entrepreneur, as the bold, committed individual. That's a new level of you. And now you're taking on the tasks from a new way of being. And next thing you know, you're going to have that life that you said you wanted all along.
Yeah. The chat is going crazy. They're loving this. There's such a fine line between be, do, have, and fake it till you make it. They're not the same things.
Yes, sir.
You talked, gosh, this was probably like 3 years ago on an Empower call. And I just remembered it. Like I just always remember this one example because I love examples, analogies, and metaphors. So if you don't remember it, I can guide you through it. But if you do remember it, you can run with it. For the person who's like, okay, but how do I be that thing when you're talking about like a character trait? How do I be that thing like more confident when I don't feel confident? Like how do you do it? Like, how do you be more confident? So you walked everybody through an example. This was years ago of yourself walking into a coffee shop and standing online. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Can you give us that visual?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just go with the visual. Let's see if you guys can connect the dots here. I wake up in the morning and I set my to-be list. Most of us are looking at our to-do list. Like we take out the thing. It's like, oh my God, I got to do all these things, blah, 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 blah. And then the second we see that to-do list, we now drop into our old identity, because our old identity is the person who's got to complete all these things. But what if instead of looking at the to-do list, I started my day with, who do I want to be? And I gave myself 1, 2, max 3 words. Don't get aggressive with it. Just stick to 1, 2, or 3 words, right? So for me, I'm going to embody confidence today. I will be confident. That's what I'm going to step into. So I go downstairs, I get my bag, whatever. And okay, I'm walking out the door. What does confidence look like? I don't know, shoulders back a little bit. I'm smiling, I'm walking with a little bit of swag, a little bounce, a little pep in the step. And I go into the regular coffee shop that I go into all the time. And I get online and I'm standing in the coffee shop and there is a dime piece. This is before I'm married. I love you, wife. There is a dime piece behind me, and I'm seeing her behind me, and I say, okay, there she is. What does the confidence look like? What does it look like to be confident in this moment? The second I ask that question, I start to notice my body language. I notice that I'm already like, because I'm nervous, a little slumped, a little like down, I'm kind of peaking, and I'm like, dude, that's not being confident. Being confident, shoulders back, chest up, tall, smile, looking people in the eye. So I go to order my coffee, I order mine, and I say, can you please cover the lovely lady behind me? I like to buy her coffee as well. And I turn around and say, hey, my name's Nick. Nice to meet you. I'd love to buy you coffee this morning.
He's never done this, by the way.
Yeah, never done it in my life. That is Bia on this call, by the way? Can we check? Just kidding. Love you, wife. So being that confident energy, just being it made my doing this so clear. And it's such a dumb example. And I'm having fun going back to the days of that example. But that is what it looks like. The simplest of ways. Not, I need to be confident, so now it's time to go build my whole business. Yes, that will become a byproduct. But being confident might look like walking a different physical energy in your body. It might look like making a phone call that you've been putting off for 5 days. It might look like smiling at somebody and looking them in the eyes when you cheers a drink. It might look like the simplest of ways, but when we step into that beingness, the doingness becomes so clear.
It's so good. Post, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
With the confident post, just
yep.
That becomes the doing. And I wrote down one of your taglines in the chat. your to-do list is your to-be list.
Yeah.
You know, the to-do list becomes the to-be list. And so it's not fake it till you make it. That's not what we're doing here, especially with businesses and marketing. We're not selling the cart before the horse. That's not what we're talking about. But it's how can you uncover and like peel the onion away from the character trait that you want to be. So what does bold look like? What does confident look like? What does swagger look like? What does all these things that you're waking up and choosing to be? Because that future version of you is those things. And when you visualize him or her, and when you visualize what they're doing, that's what you see. And so when you can step into the emotion of that, and you can start to embody the feeling and the action of the being, that's where then the doing kind of just falls into play.
And one of the things that I think is really an important addition to this, that I want to just, for those who are like, this still feels like faking it. Sometimes what has to be done, the work for us, and this is why we call it the work, is that there are some layers. Remember, I talked about the trays earlier. There's some layers of emotion, shame, guilt, worry, that are blocking the confidence. So sometimes we can still embody confidence, but it can feel fake, because on top of that confidence is suppressed fear, suppressed guilt, suppressed shame. So allowing ourselves, when I go to, and it's a very simple thing you can do by yourself. Sometimes we need professional support, which is powerful and life-changing in my opinion. But there are moments that we can do this on our own. And here's the trick. If you're going to feel confident, you're stepping into that beingness, and you go and you try it, and something feels blocked or you feel resistant to it, it's not happening. Check in, close your eyes for a second and say, what's coming up or what's blocking? What is the thing that is louder than the confidence? And you'll notice there's a feeling or a sensation there. Sadness, guilt, shame. And this is the part that people are like, this can't be right. This is right. Feel that thing. Give yourself a second. If you got to step away, if you got to go to your room, if you got to hit the bathroom for a minute, feel shame. Feel the guilt. And give it permission. It's okay to feel shame in my body for a second, because what you're doing is you're having a conversation with the ego, who's like 6 years old, who's like, shame, 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 guilt, 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 that we have to feel this. We can't feel confident. When you let the kid just have its moment, no, it's okay. Go ahead. Feel the shame, feel the guilt, let it come up. You'll probably cry if it's something like shame, guilt, worry, anxiety, whatever. Let it happen. It takes a couple seconds. It's just taking the tray off, and then okay, it's not done. I might not be done with shame for the rest of my life, but now confidence can present itself because it's not being suppressed by something else.
It's the thing that we just intuitively do with children too. Like, I don't have one yet, but I was a school teacher. And when kids are crying or when they're throwing a tantrum or whatever, like, we generally as adults will approach them with the onion and we'll go, hold on, take a deep breath. What's going on? And they're just screaming, crying, and you're like, whoa, how do you feel? Like, and we keep doing that to a child. We're like, well, why do you feel it? Why are you feeling like that? How are you feeling? Is it getting better? Take another deep breath. But then when we're adults, we forget to breathe, we forget to slow down, and we forget to ask ourselves what we're feeling. And we just think,
and we don't ask anybody what they're feeling. We're more like, whoa, you cool? Calm it down, man. Like, we don't give permission for this.
Yeah. Can we do 2 questions? Because we are on the hour, but are you cool with 2 questions?
Let's do 2 questions.
All right, fam, you got to drop them in the chat. I can't promise it's going to be yours, but I'm going to pick 2 questions and let's see if we can do 2. But this has been so powerful. I'm so grateful for everybody who has been on live and anyone watching the replay. Like I said, Nick is my secret little weapon in my back pocket that I've been lucky enough to get to work with for many, many years. So any questions that you have just about some of the stuff we're talking about, and I hope you can see too, this is so much more than mindset. It's really easy to call Nick like a mindset coach, or, oh, we have a mindset coach inside of Empower. This is so much deeper. And this is one of the things that really differentiates our program from so many, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And while I can support you on a lot of that stuff, it's kind of like having the good parent, bad parent, or it's like you hear something from a teacher and then you hear something from a parent and you just hear it differently. So it's very intentional that Nick is a part of the program. Let's see if there are any questions that come in. There's no stupid questions. If not, we can put a bow on things, but I'm so grateful for everybody being here. Nick, you're just, you have so much knowledge, so much wisdom, so much experience to deliver. So I love that you are still a part of this program after so many years. Jill says, guided meditations or not to start? Well, I have an opinion on that, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I think if you're starting, for me, it's the whole point of meditation is creating a relationship with self. So why not start on a date with yourself? So what I will do personally is if you need some plink plink music in the background, as my mom would call it, great, rock and roll, go do it. I personally think that it is as simple as my wife's a breathwork practitioner. She created her own modality called theta breathwork. It's super powerful, but all of our focus in theta breathwork, for example, is just put your attention on the breath. And if we just take all the complexities of that out, can you just be with your breath? And every time my brain drifts, I just come back to my breath, and I'll set myself a 5-minute timer in the beginning. Just can I just notice my breath? And the more that we can be with that and notice that, the more we start to create a relationship with ourselves, and the distraction we can start to notice. And it's like, oh, okay, that thing's coming up. My brain is built to make 80,000 thoughts a day. I'm not mad at it. It's just, I notice it coming up and I'm coming back to my breath. The more we do that, the more we create a relationship with our ability to be present with ourselves. So I think personally, before you start to get into, Becky, the meditation instructor, walking you through the 15-minute thing, just start with your voice or your breath and maybe some light sound in the background.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to interject. It's a wonderful answer. And I think, like you said, the whole purpose of it, I think there's a misconception with meditation, and people think that it's supposed to be thoughtless. And people will often say, like, I can't quiet my brain. You don't understand. I have so much going on. And it's like, well, the joke is that means that you're likely a better candidate than anybody. But it's not about being thoughtless. It's about being thoughtful. And so whether you're thinking about the breath, or you're thinking about a word, or I'm actually wearing a mala today, which these are used in meditation because I believe it's 180 beads.
180, yep.
180. And so you pass them through your fingers while saying a mantra, over and over 180 times. That's why people use them, or what they use them for. Let's see if there was one more question. 108.
That is
We
right.
have so many yogis in here, so they're just like, I apologize.
I was just in Bhutan and they just told me this and I screwed it up already.
I did too. It was my fault. I said it first. Is there another question? Let me know if there's one more that we want to drop in here. And if not, we will start to put a bow on things. And we will obviously send our love and gratitude to Nick. Nick, did you have any last big drop kahuna for someone sitting on the nail? They don't want to move yet. They're too scared. What does that look like for them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when I think about steps forward and action and stepping into their bold self and moving into this life, what I invite people to do is continue to talk about this with yourself as creating a relationship with yourself. Like just having deeper, more connected relationship with yourself. It's so different than I think not all of us, I think most of us are coming from this context of, I want to make more money. I want to have more success. I want to have more impact. I want to serve. I want to share my gifts, whatever. One of the most powerful ways to do that is to build relationship with self. And the more we build our relationship with self through all these practices, meditation, whatever, getting more connected with ourselves, what happens is we start to become a full cup. We start to overflow. And then we're doing business, we're generating whatever, relationships from an overflowing cup, not from here's my last drops that I'm trying to pour just to survive. And I get that people have moments of survival in life. And my invitation to you is to do what you need to do, be you need to be, to get to a space where you are doing the work on you so that you are filling yourself up. And then the more you fill yourself up, now I have extra. I'm coming from a place of abundance to create, build out a program, to make more money, to succeed and impact people, rather than coming from this place of, I feel like I have to because I don't know what else to do with myself. It's a really empty conversation. So I'm so inspired by you, the listener, being here and checking in with yourself. I'm so inspired by your commitment to exploration and learning a new way of being. There are a lot of people who aren't like you. There are a lot of people who keep saying to themselves, this is just the way, this is the cards I've been dealt, this is the way that it is. And they're not even giving themselves permission to look at another way. So many times we are the fly on the window, slamming into the thing, slamming into the thing, slamming into the thing. And if that fly were to just turn around, it'd see that 10 feet behind itself was an open door. And what you're doing by being in these spaces and exploring new opportunity is realizing that there are doors everywhere. There's openings at any given moment. And the thing that's trapping us in the way that we have it right now, the thing that's keeping us stuck is the story that all we have is a window that we keep running into. So my heart is screaming for you to continue your process of exploration, however you do so. I could not be more confident that you have found a beautiful, safe, profound place in Jess Glazer's content and Jess DeRosa's content and what she has to offer, what she has to support you with. I mean, I'm still here by her side as a human because of the person that she is and what she's built, but as just a business owner myself, as somebody who's in this work, what's being done in this community is transformative. It's profound. I have so many people I love that I celebrate all the time because of what they built for their lives through this work, through the work with Jess, through this mindset work. So my invitation to you is, as those stories are coming up, as the insecurities kicking in, sit with it. Notice that that's not you. That's the small side of you. That's the egoic side of you that's trying to protect you and keep you safe in this little box of life you're playing in. And what if we just exploded that freaking box, turned around, saw the open door and went for a freaking run? What could live on the other side of that big game of life that's waiting for you? So I'm excited for those of you who will step into this next season of your life, hopefully in this community with us, but whatever it looks like. We're going to cheer you on and support you and hope that you take whatever information you gained over these last few weeks and go run with it, create something beautiful with it.
Oh, it's so good. I'm going to end it there. We had a couple questions come in, but you kind of hit on them just when you gave us your little mic drop moment there. If you have a takeaway, I would love you to share it right now in the chat so I can gift that back to Nick and let him know what came through for you, because that's the best gift we can give him. If you got to run or you're willing and excited about it, please share on social media. You can tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Tag Nick at I am Nick Pags. It's NickPags. I am Nick Pags. So we're getting a couple of takeaways here. We got some little ahas coming in. So people were just saying, what's the worst thing that can happen? I love that one. Keep dropping some of these takeaways as they come in. We're a little bit delayed from you and I on Zoom to what actually comes through on Facebook. So we'll give them a second here to drop their takeaways. Replace your to-do list with your to-be list. My takeaway is let go of the old identity and have the courage to move forward. Absolutely. Remember, forward is a pace. Forward is a pace. Forward is a pace. We've said that so many times in here. It's not a race. Your to-be list. I love that. That's awesome. How do I want to be today? I'm asking myself that every day. Authenticity is where it's at. New levels, new devils. Keep them coming. These are so good. Love the meditation information. Be, not do. Absolutely. It's such a good one. That one, be, do, have, because we do it backwards. We think when we have the thing, we'll suddenly become the person. And that's just not the way that it goes. If you have another takeaway, go ahead and drop it in. If you want to post on social, like I said, I am Nick Pags. I am Jessica DeRose. Aligned or unfamiliar? Is it aligned or is it just unfamiliar? I love that one. So good. I mean, that was like going all the way back to an hour ago when we were talking about the whole thing we kicked off with alignment and identity. And it's not about what you need to think. It's about what you need to actually be able to hear with yourself today. Authentic self. I needed this reminder today. The chat has been popping off. So Nick, I think you did a fabulous job coming in here and dropping some insights. I'm so grateful for you and just you offering us your precious time on this Friday afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be in this community and hope to continue to see some of you in the future. And Jess, just love you so much in the work you're doing. Thanks for having me.
Love you too. Real quick, should we put this on the podcast?
Let's go.
Should we put this on the podcast? Would that be fun?
That's so fun. I'm in.
I know. Tell me if you think we should put it on the podcast.
You have my verbal discretion. I'm in. Let's do it.
Sign on the dotted line. Yes. What a gift. Yes, that would be amazing. Yes. Okay. I think maybe I'm gonna ask the team if we can put this on the podcast. I think that would be awesome. Team says yes. They're in there. They said yes. Let's
Thank you,
go.
team. We love you, team. You're the best team.
Oh, it's 11:11 or 1:11, depending on where you live. Would you look at that? What a time to sign off. All right. Do your homework, watch the replays, get your GPS guide in. We are here to support you in the Facebook group all weekend. So don't shy away, be present, ask for what you need. And Nick Pags, sending you all love to Austin. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.